Hello, and welcome to our third and final in between the sessions chat with some of our INDE Awards and INDE Summit sponsors. I'm Jane Henderson, and it's a pleasure to be with Liam Nichols, Marketing Manager of Victoria, ACT, South Australia and Western Australia for Herman Miller, Con Papadakis from Neolith, James Muffa, Creative Director from Milliken, Ontario, Robert Warner, General Manager of Gaggenau, and Rod Wiles, Director, Africa, Middle East, South Asia and Oceania, American Hardwood Export Council, AHEC. So I hope that some of you had a chance to see at least a little bit of that panel. It was really very interesting when we take the different perspectives, and it talked about culture and how our past can inform our future. So maybe Liam, you'd like to start off and tell me what you find is interesting about this.
Yeah, well, I think, from Herman Miller's perspective, obviously we have a rich history of our own, over 100 years of design-led furniture manufacture. But, I'm proud of the fact that we do everything we do is based on research, and it's all about people sort of regardless of where they live. And it's nice to have that global perspective, but then we also have that local connection, I suppose, through our local dealer partners in all across the world. So it's great that we're able to I guess connect with all those different cultures as they are.
Okay, and Rod, for you, what is important about culture within your business?
It's tremendously important. We're promoting material around the world, which comes from one place, but it's going to all over the world. But at the same time, we want to respect local culture, local materials, local design aesthetic. So we're trying to sort of support that with a sustainable material from outside that region. Rather than come in and take over in terms of design and build, etc., etc. It's just purely supporting it. So it's all about respect and working with culture rather than forcing anything of our own on top of it.
Right. And Con, what about culture and what about respect when it comes down to the products that you present to your clients?
Look, at Neolith, we're quite fortunate. It's a services company. And we bring forward products that help architects achieve their dreams in terms of their vision and what they're trying to achieve. And it comes down to not just having a plain profile, but we could adapt things to suit that culture and suit that environment. So for us, it's exciting. We have our normal range of products that we can bring into the market, but then to be able to adapt and create based on what the architect's trying to achieve in the market, it makes for an exciting time for us. So we look at things at a bigger perspective. We're still quite a young business, not just here locally, but also at a global stage. But we can adapt to the way that we do things, and that for us is super exciting. As long as we're making sure that we have the right products to bring to the market, but also have the insights behind us to make sure we look at the carbon footprint. We look at everything in the manufacturing process. It's not just a product that comes to the market. It's how do you bring that to the market and how do you better what we're doing in the market.
So no one size fits all, that's for sure, it seems.
Exactly.
So James, how do you feel about this? How do your products respond to culture and identity wherever they are?
With us, I guess, from a Milliken point of view, is what we're trying to do is create products which are sustainable, and we look at discussing closely with our clients and the environment to sort of see how we can, engage and how we can really bring a product and work and collaborate together with the rest of the teams and manufacturing as well, being a local producer. So we try and get the best out of everything and understand what is required in our marketplace, regional and globally.
And Robert, how does culture influence your products?
I think culture for us, Jan, and excuse me, we've got a couple of technical difficulties here. So culture for us really is a very important part of our history. Gaggenau as a brand has been around for about 338 years, and our culture or our foundation is around craftsmanship. It's around design, and it's around, you know, using natural products. So we're steeped in culture, and we really respect that. What we try to do as a brand, though, is transcend culture, and you know, the brand Gaggenau tries to have play its role in the environment that sits in, and rather than being the hero, really tries to become a part of that culture, whether that's at a culinary level, whether that's at a design level, whatever level that might be.
So over the centuries, you can say that Gaggenau has really reflected the place that it's at, the culture that you know, it's living within, and also to a degree you could say shaping that culture as well. Would you say that would be a fair call? I must have lost. No problem. We'll just go on to Rod. Would you say that your products help shape where they are, and the designers and the architects that they work with?
Absolutely. I mean, we're not talking about a product, we're talking about a material which helps people to make products. And as I said, earlier, this is about underpinning and helping people to make what they want from a material that we're promoting. What we always like to do is, for example, if we're working in Australia or if we're working in India, we like to work with Australian or Indian designers and help them develop what they want to develop. All we do is offer them the material, the wherewithal, the know-how to do that. And of course, the material is sustainable, and that is the real core of what this is all about. It's like using something which is actually sustainable to a low environmental impact, but which enables them to achieve the outcome that they wanted in the first place.
So, Rod, do you really see quite a difference between the different areas that you're involved with around the globe and within the region? Do you see that there's lots of differences, the way that people will specify a particular species of timber, the way that they use that timber, so that it reflects the place? It sounds pretty obvious, but can you delve into that?
Absolutely. I mean, when we're talking about hardwoods, we're actually talking about fashion in a way. This is a surface that you are going to see, generally speaking, inside your home. And it could be a floor, could be a piece of furniture, so it's all about what it looks like, and fashions are different all over the world. If you're in Australia, people are very interested in having that sort of blonde timber look. Oak is the thing. If you go to India, it's a sort of darker red timbers, but actually there's a very open mind there, because exotic imported timbers like American hardwoods are new in the market. So those fashions are only just being developed. So it really does vary hugely all around the world. And then of course, it's also about how important is the environmental side of it. So will we use this material because it has low environmental impact, or do we want to use this material because it just looks nice? And of course, that is different as well around the world.
Right. I have to say, Liam, that Herman Miller's been around for a very long time too, and reflects, I think, the different, dare I say that word, trends, but reflects the trends of what people want and what clients ask for and what designers are designing for. Can you delve into this a little bit more deeply for me?
Yeah, I think you're right. Yeah, 120 or so years we've been around, but I think, for us, we do have that, I guess, global approach to design, but then being able to offer, a variety of finishes and even sizes of some of our products, just to accommodate local needs and preferences. And I guess now it's even expanding into different preferences in terms of workplace, different ways that people like to work. So I think we've seen a trend in the trend in our product development has shifted to having systems that are more, can be configured in different ways, depending on whether people want to be more collaborative or more private, or even supporting different types of technology that's used. So there's definitely been an evolution towards that in our product development over the years.
So James, talk to me about collaboration and how Milliken and Ontario, collaborates and how that informs culture.
Hold on. Let me just go back firstly, dear. I think you're asking about what's happening to the market, for instance, in our scenario where we've got the flooring. There's been a shift to in the marketplace where people are requiring quicker lead times, and there's also the flexibility to move within the marketplace, and sort of I guess having more direct collaborations between the teams, sort of thing. So we talk about collaborations, for instance. What we tend to do is we're looking at we're trying to understand the market. Who are we talking to, sort of thing? Where's the market shifting to? So when we look at sort of engaging with sort of, let's say, with Michael Mossman from the previous on the panel previously, talked about sort of trying to engage and trying to connect with interactions between designers and the client. So we're very, very strong on bringing collaborations into place where we're working with them, Indigenous designers, trying to bring their artwork into spaces where sort of where previously there wasn't anything. And they talked also about the different what's the heritage building versus what was there before. So that's a question we tend to ask ourselves, when we talk to designers, when we're going to apply, when they invite us in to go and have a look at a program of such. So we're asking, so what are you trying to do? Are we trying to work with the product which is going to be based on the heritage, or do we dig deeper and look for what was there originally, sort of thing? So and then work from there on a platform and engage with the required people.
That's what the panel was talking about, really, was that the past can inform the future to make it better. Do you think that's the case, Robert?
Yeah, I definitely do. I think, from our perspective, I'll use something quite locally about collaboration and about culture. We're an appliance manufacturer who really want to bring professional cooking into the home and that culinary culture into the home. However, a couple of years ago, we had the head of La Mazzocco come through our space here, and we thought, well, what if we worked on a program around bringing professional coffee in connection with Gaggenau into the home? So we've been working on a project with La Mazzocco, and that really came from Melbourne's coffee culture, our obsession with coffee here, and we're a year and a half into that project, and I think within the next, say, 12 months, we're going to have a fantastic product that was sparked by our local culture, not necessarily historic, but local culture, and an idea sparked from that we started to work on something that's going to be completely new and unique for the market, and we get to test that here in Australia as the first where we will launch the product. So culture, deep and historical culture, can really influence design, can influence consumption, and therefore products. However, culture, I think it was one of the team mentioned about how culture is a bit dynamic. There is historical culture, but it continues to evolve and morph, and I think we see that today, that the fusion of various cultures. There's the importance of Indigenous culture, but what we see in a country like Australia is infusion of multiple cultures, and that connection of cultures is where we I think see opportunity, and people really like to take the piece of this or a piece of that. You've still got to do it respectfully. You still need to understand the local culture, but I think the inspiration from other cultures is what really generates new ideas, and that's what's exciting for us.
Exciting indeed. Con, can you talk? You spoke a little bit about custom products for particular areas and countries. Can you elaborate a little bit more on that? Tell me what sort of things are prevalent in other particular areas. Not one size fits all.
Yeah, look, it's something that the products that we have, it's a high performance surface. So it's a surface that can be used in many areas, but we also want to make sure we're respecting the culture or the history of a building. If you look at the historic applications for Neolith, people think of it as a kitchen benchtop, an application to put in your kitchen or in your bathroom. The reality is, globally, we're using this surface for flooring, for wall cladding, for making the skin of a building blend into the historic feeling or the culture of that environment. Now, that's not just by saying it's a high performance product and we can have a black surface. It's making that physically blend into the existing surroundings. So if you take Sydney, for example, it's rich in history with sandstone. Pretty much most of our major buildings down the main street of Sydney are clad in some sort of sandstone. We could look to bring in a product that looks very similar to that, that has a performing surface that isn't going to have the maintenance issues that you'd have behind that. So you're still working in with that culture and that heritage that's in behind it, but you've got a surface that's going to last a lot longer. It's also a product that is made from natural sources. So we're looking at the carbon footprint. All of our products are carbon neutral. So rather than digging up from the ground big quarry blocks that you would historically, you're using a thinner product. There's less of a footprint on the global stage, and you've got a surface that's going to perform. So these are things that we can help designers with. We can help the developer to achieve their ideal situation as well. But it's about getting involved from early stages and not looking at a product just for what we offer in a standard portfolio. It's how do we help the designers come to mind with that. We need to keep in mind it is a printed surface, so anything is an option. No matter what we look at, we can go through to make that work and bring that design to a reality. So for us, that's how we try and work in with different projects. And as I said, not just here in the APAC region, but this is something at a global level that we try to see how we can leave our mark on the architectural industry.
So thanks, Con. So Liam, if we have products that reflect culture, what's R&D looking at? And we're all talking about sustainability as well. But what's Herman Miller looking to the future to be able to reflect place, and be respectful at the same time?
Well, I think in terms of our product development, probably a couple of parts of that. I spoke earlier about the fact that we do have, I guess, that global umbrella in terms of product development, but then we do rely on input from our local teams, and I think that is something that's continually increasing. Feeding back the local needs from each region into our product development. If I can talk about the sustainability side of things, like just to give you an example, I think we have most people would be quite familiar with the Herman Miller Aeron chair. And that's a chair that's been around since the mid-1990s. We've refreshed that and continually evolved it a couple of years ago. And the next iteration of that's going to be released later this year is one that's has a high content, or the highest content in the industry, of ocean-bound plastic. And so what we're doing with that is we're harvesting that plastic from different parts of the world where I think the stat is that it's going to replace the equivalent of 15 million plastic bottles each year.
Wow.
So we're pretty proud of that progression, I suppose, towards the more sustainable materials.
Look, I know that every person here and their business is sustainably minded. Rod, perhaps going to you, showing respect and being sustainable at the same time. Talk to me about sustainability.
Well, I mean, sustainability is not an afterthought. This is something that is absolutely at the core of the hardwood industry in the United States. In terms of, I don't want to misquote it, but somebody from Greenpeace some years ago said that actually wood, provided it is sourced from a sustainable source, is possibly the greenest material available on the planet. And actually, there's a huge amount of study now looking at carbon capture, carbon sequestration of wood. This is a renewable resource. This doesn't involve open cast or strip mining. This is something that grows back. And actually, contrary to popular belief, forests around the world are actually increasing in size. What we do and what the news tends to focus on is all the bad stories. We look at the Amazon, we hear a lot about how forest fires are ravaging the Amazon, and it's becoming a source of carbon rather than a carbon sink. But actually, there are great stories in other parts of the world, and that's where we should be focusing. And so actually using wood, provided it comes from responsibly sourced forest is the greenest thing to do. So, everything we do is about sustainability. If we can see chairs like, Herman Miller chair, which is partly wood, but it's also partly, ocean-bound plastic, for example, this is brilliant. This is exactly the kind of thing we should be doing. At the same time, respecting the cultures that we are, that we're working in all around the world, but also teaching them. And that's really important. I'm doing a lot of work these days in India, and in India, issues of sustainability are only really just emerging as important. So, in terms of using timber. So, this is something we need to convey urgently. Is say, look, we need to encourage you to use this, not just because we want you to use it because it's beautiful and it's what we are promoting, but also because it's going to help the environment. If you use this and you don't use that, and that's really, really important. We need to impart that knowledge that we have around the world.
I guess being sustainable is showing respect for the culture that you and the earth that we live in. James, talk to me about Milliken Ontario and the ideas of sustainability that then sustains a community to sustain the globe.
Right. Okay. Firstly,
it's a big question. I'm sorry, but you can break it down.
Okay, let's break it down. Okay. Firstly, obviously, with our product, what we're using recycled yarns for starters, and then we're also utilizing recycled backing materials to make the product sustainable. At the same time, what we have is we call our product stewardship, which we call Earth Plus recycling. So we've got a 3-stage process. I guess once we get the product back from the client, it may have been down for 5 to 10 years off the floor. We bring it back to the plant. We get it. The first stage, we get it super cleaned, and then we texturize it, and then eventually we put back printed. We put a print on top of that, and that gives it a new design and a warranty for another 5 to 7 years. So basically that stops the product going back into landfill, so it's being reused. The second part is the reuse program. So we have arrangements with charities to repurpose used carpet towels into the secondhand market, so that they're not taken into landfill. So those are little things we are working on regionally, and obviously we're part of a global company who are doing more than what we're doing. But from here, I think that for instance, at Earth Plus, it was well being utilized by a lot of universities and schools to add that life cycle into the product.
That's fantastic. Robert, going to you, Gaggenau make products that are built to last. And instead of replacing, there's the opportunity to have products that stay the distance. Talk to me about this.
Yeah, I think, Jan, that's an important part. I mean, sustainability we spoke of with Bosch earlier, and BSH have brands such as Bosch, Siemens, Neff and Gaggenau under its portfolio. So there's a broad umbrella of sustainability and our drive to be carbon neutral. But from a Gaggenau perspective, it is very much about building products that are designed to last and fit for purpose for a long time. And we often have customers that will come into here, Gaggenau Melbourne, and say, I've got this oven from, 1999, from 2001, from 1993. I don't really want to give it up, but I know that it's time for a new product. So I think that the sustainability is really important. And for us at a design level, we need to find that sort of right balance between avant-garde design that is timeless, so that there is an edge to it. However, it's going to sit comfortably in whichever design footprint you put it in over the last 2, 3, 4, 5 decades. And that's a really delicate balance for us to find, because people may redo their house, they may redo their kitchen, but they might want to hold on to those appliances because they've become so familiar with them. So I think that's really important. And what we try to do as a product, many of the products and surfaces and what you see here is they're very unique for each of their locations based on culture. What we try to do is really fit out our appliances with an enormous range of features and functions that suit multiple environments and multiple cultures. So whether you're looking at the oven behind me that has a pizza stone with an element for certain cultures, but at the same time does a roast, at the same time is, above it is the combi steam oven, which is really well suited to Asian and fusion cooking. So as a brand, we try to build products that are quite universal, and timeless, and also have the ability to last for a long time. And that way they can connect really simply to the culture, they can connect to the design, but at a sustainability level, they are designed to last for a long time for our consumers.
Got me, Robert. Sounds great. But Con, can I come to you now? And can you talk to me about the sustainable elements? And I know we've touched on this, but if you could just expand a little bit.
Yes, sustainability is a big focus for Neolith as a brand. Whenever you look at a stone product, the first thing that comes to mind is a man-made surface and the impacts it's going to have onto the environment. So that was the first thing that we looked at when we were going through the R&D for the material. Our surface is carbon neutral, and it's not just by the way that we've looked at the factory and the production facilities, it's the whole chain from when that product is starting to it's being completed, and then the way it's transported to its destination. So that can mean that we're looking to offset the carbon impact. We're involved with different resources around the globe. Most recently, we're involved in planting over 300 trees throughout Africa. And this is a way to give back to the community, but also look at how we can engage with different communities. It's not just, for us, it's not just about product and making sure the surface is sustainable. It's how do you leave a lasting impression with the material once you put it into its final place. As Rob was mentioning about the products, looking to design for something that's a longevity and going down 2, 3, 4 decades. Similar thing that we look at with the product here. It's not about putting in a benchtop into a kitchen that is there for 2 years and then you replace it with something else. The product has got features that you don't see in anything else, so you can have it there for many years. For a facade, we don't put a facade in for a couple of years. This is a long-standing product that needs to be put in place. So it's about making sure that when we're designing products and bringing new products into the market, it's about ensuring that it does have a sustainable aspect, and that's the beginning of the process. The talks that we've gone through today, everyone's talking about it's not the afterthought. It should be the beginning of the process, that you look at how you can make your product more sustainable. And I think that's a big drive for us, to make sure that whatever we're doing, we're going through the right processes. And we know that sustainability isn't always about cost. It's about how we can leave an impact onto the environment, how we can leave our own mark onto the globe and make sure that we're doing things correctly. We go down to the fact of our forklifts. They're electric and battery operated, and it's a bit much more higher expense, but these little things can change the way that you do things. So for us, sustainability is a big part of what we do. There is a lot of R&D happening in the background at the moment for new products that will, again, change the surface market. So it's always about how do we take that next step. It's not what we've just perceived and what we've produced right now, what's coming up in the future, and how do we evolve to make things continually better in the sustainability side.
When we're talking about sustainability, I know that it has such an impact on culture, and it can make an identity, it can make or break an identity of those who live in a country, and indeed in the region and around the globe. But I can't believe we just started and now we're just finishing. I'm so sorry. I wish we could go on and on, because everybody has a story, and that's what I love. There's a story behind every person here, every business here, every brand here. And the way that you're talking, the initiatives that you're putting together mean that you're pushing to make lives better and to help shape them in a better direction. But just because I was a little bit all over the place in the beginning, I would just like to say thank you to Liam Nichols, Marketing Manager for Herman Miller, that's Victoria, ACT, South Australia and WA, Con Papadakis from Neolith, James Mufa, Creative Director from Milliken Onterra, Robert Warner, General Manager Gaggenau, and Rod Wiles, Director Africa, Middle East, South Asia and Oceania from American Hardwood Export Council, AHEC. And what can I say, but this is the last get-together we've had in between the discussions. And I'd like to thank you all for joining, and for everybody out there who's had the pleasure of your company. So thank you. Final session of the Indies. Up next will be the housing balance, design, community and economy next. Thanks so much, everybody.
Thank you, Jan.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jan.
Thank you, Jen.
Thanks, Jane.